please.
Yeah.
Sure, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Clay, Feston, and Ward are excused. Camisso?
Here.
Malowitz?
He's here.
Efacaro?
Yeah.
Ethier?
Here.
Collins?
Here.
And Lockhart?
Here.
Six present, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Start the previous minutes. Anyone hear the minutes?
Motion approved.
Motion.
Second.
No minutes. Read the first resolution. Got to vote on that. No minutes. Raise your hands. Yes.
What are we voting on?
On the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
I asked them all that ahead of time.
Item 2, is local law B is tabled at request of sponsor. Item 3, public hearing for local law E, and local law E number 4 are tabled at request of sponsor. Item 5 is amending resolution number 41 for 2023 regarding the 2020 explosive detection K-9 grant program. The sheriff is here this evening.
Is this 4?
We're a little
All
fuzzy
right,
on
but
the
the numbers are
Yes,
irrelevant
yes,
tonight.
yes.
So thank you all. This is just, we're asking for an extension, a one-year extension. This is a $50,000 grant, no matching funds, but unfortunately, we're not going to be able to expend it due to the availability of vehicles, production delays, so we're just asking for a delay, that's all.
Question for
Motion.
Sharon? Motion by
Second.
Gary, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Next.
Next item is amending resolution number 42 for 2023 regarding the technical rescue and urban search and rescue grant program. Sheriff.
This is a previously authorized resolution as well, $74,900. Nothing matching for us, we're just asking for an extension, again, due to availability of items that are still in production for search and rescue.
Any question for Sharon?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next item is authorizing the submission of a grant application in agreement with the State of New York Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services regarding the 2022 to 2023 Hazardous Materials Emergency Preparedness Grant and amending the 2023 Sheriff's Office budget.
This is a $16,000 grant we'd like to apply for and receive. We're the fiduciary agent for the Capital District Hazmat Team. This year, what we'd like to take the $16,000 for is get a tanker and outfit it into basically a leaky tanker, so we can train on how to attack the tanks when they're leaking. That's all I got on that. I can't.
Motion approved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
It's a leaky grant.
Opposed?
Next item is authorizing the submission of a grant application to the United States Department of Justice Bureau of Justice Assistance regarding reimbursement for the incarceration of criminal aliens.
This is our annual application for the State Criminal Alien Assistance Program. Historically, we're anywhere from $15,000 to $25,000. We normally expect around 25, although last year we were a little bit lower, but we never really know.
Any questions? No? Take a motion?
Motion.
Second? Motion made, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? No? Unanimous?
Next item is authorizing an agreement with the New York State Governor's Traffic Safety Committee regarding the 2023 Albany County Stop DWI plan.
This is just simply requesting authorization to enter into our Governor's Traffic Safety Committee. It's a one-year grant. In the grant, we partially fund the DA's specialized DWI prosecutor, Albany County Probation specialized DWI probation, education awareness, rehab, public information. It's keep our roadways safe, our Stop DWI grant.
Questions? No, you're good.
No motion.
Oh, motion second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Unanimous?
Next item is authorizing the acceptance of the Gun Involved Violence Elimination Award from the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services.
This year, the governor increased the GIVE award for Albany County, and we have gotten back involved with the GIVE award. Our share this year, with your permission, is $253,100. It's to offset part-time member in the Crime Analysis Center and to pay for some of the Albany overtime.
Any questions?
Motion.
Motion by Frank, second by Gary. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous?
All right, we're skipping over the next item, move to a probation item, authorizing an agreement with the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services regarding the Gun Involved Violence Elimination Grant. Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you.
Have a good night, Sheriff.
Oh, I'm here for the night.
That's your umbrella, Sheriff?
Yes. Sheriff's brother.
Good evening. This also is Gun and Violence Elimination Act issued by DCJS, New York State. And it's a partnership with the District Attorney, the Sheriff's Department, the Albany Police, New York State Division of Criminal Justice Service to reduce gun violence in Albany County. And we've had this grant for several years. I think this is our 10th year. And our grant has doubled, and it has increased to $372,000. And the increase will pay for additional overtime, additional GPS services for offenders, training material, and it adds 2 additional probation staff to continue to provide this service.
Any question for Bill?
Motion.
Motion, second by Frank. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? That's it.
Thank you very much. Have a nice evening.
The next item is going back to item 10, authorizing the submission of a grant application and agreement with the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services regarding the Crimes Against Revenue Program. DA Soares is here this evening.
Is this when he's going to have his presentation?
No, that will be next.
Before he comes in, I have a quick question for the sheriff.
Yes.
Do we have an update regarding the Albany Safe Camp program?
Not that I'm aware of. I think that's kind of just been left out there right now. We're going to have a kind of, probably another meeting on it.
Yep, it's being, the website's being built in IT.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything else on that.
All right, thank you.
DA Soares?
Good evening, everyone.
This is for item 10.
Item 10, we have before you request for legislative action with respect to our Crimes Against Revenue grant. This is a grant that we continue to receive from the Division of Criminal Justice Services. The grant is designed to hire prosecutors for the specific purposes of pursuing exactly what it says, crimes against revenue. It's our New York State, the taxes, and a lot of our agencies that come to us, given our unique jurisdiction, to pursue tax-related cases and other crimes that affect revenue coming into the state and local government. And this is before you today seeking permission. We've already been awarded the grant, but it's seeking the perfunctory permission for us to both apply, to enter into a contract, and to receive those dollars.
Any questions for the DA?
Motion moved.
And second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? That's it. See you done
No. Next will be a presentation by the district attorney.
Sure.
Oh, that's what it is. I thought they were here for my benefit.
We are here for your benefit, for everybody's benefit.
Tell him that.
I did, I told him earlier.
You tell him ahead of time?
Oh, yeah, I did.
Go ahead, David, you went on your presentation.
I'll tee this up for everybody. We have a newcomer here that we have not seen.
Hello, everybody. My name is Joshua Seabury. I also work at the Albany County
Well,
District
Robin
Attorney's
County,
Office.
you got a lot of fun.
Yes.
Here's
yes,
the
I
start, right here.
Yes.
We saw Gil earlier, by the way.
Right.
So I'm here mostly as just a human being, largely. We need your help. We don't need monetary help. We don't need much of your time, if any of it at all. We need advocacy because there is an emergency in the streets that is exclusive to young black males almost entirely. And you all can actually help us fix that problem. I know I wasn't here at the last meeting, but Raise the Age came up, and we want data, we want evidence, we want a lot to work off of to adjust to how Raise the Age is affecting people. Hey Wanda, good to see you. I'm glad you're here because this, I think, is something that would resonate with you more than anyone else because we've had other conversations about this before. You came up to see us. And I know Patty wanted information on Raise the Age. It is a flat-out disaster, and it is not really up for debate whether or not it needs to be fixed. What's really up for debate is how to fix it and how quickly. If we have a unified voice on the county level to fix these problems, then we can actually literally save lives. And unfortunately, there was a homicide on Saturday. That's one of the lives we could have saved if this law were not written the way it is. So Josh has just some of the numbers from just really when it's been warm outside, not the whole entirety of since 2018, but we can get to that if you'd like.
Yeah, so the collection of this data is from the beginning of May.
Do we have a copy of that, Dave?
We certainly can provide a copy.
I can email all of you. I didn't want to spam you with paper, but if you want, I can send it to you literally right now.
You can never send me enough paper, don't
Okay.
hesitate.
Yes,
Can I
sir.
ask the young man to turn this way? He's
Yes,
waiting down.
Absolutely.
That's when he's sit up here.
So for the month of, beginning of May to the, all the way up to right now, we have a total of 33 cases, 21 of them being violent, with 18 violent offenders on it. We have 13 of those cases involving a gun, and out of those 13 cases, 5 of them, the gun was discharged. We're looking at, if you wanted to look at the nonviolent data, as I said before, we have a total of 33 cases. 12 of them are nonviolent, with 10 nonviolent offenders. And that, out of the whole data set, we're looking at a total of 28 people. So out of the 28 violent felony charges that are comprised of the 18 people, the 18 violent felony offenders, 12 have been rearrested. And out of those 12 that have been rearrested, 4 have been rearrested strictly within the months of May through July. So we're looking at, out of the 12 violent felony offenders that have been rearrested, out of all of them that have been rearrested, 11 have previously committed or went on to commit one more violent felony offense. So this is a 96% recidivism rate right here that we're looking at, strictly for violent.
And I'm not sure if anyone has read the TU over the past 2 days, but they got into some detail about Saturday's homicide, that usually that's not the kind of thing before adjudication that we would talk about. But since it's already out there, we can talk about more detail and cause and effect. If you read that article, they spelled it out, but the DA has further detail for you.
Are you gonna take questions as we go along or
Absolutely.
at the end?
Either way, honestly, but I would say just let him get through this real
Yeah.
quick, and then we can get to the questions.
So, what I will start my statement by saying, and I think that as these words fall upon your ear, it may be a bit shocking, but I believe that we have the evidence to support my proclamation. And my proclamation is that New York State, as a result of Raise the Age, is the first in the country to adopt an open carry policy of illegal guns for teens. What is remarkable in our analysis of the cases that have come since 2018 to the present is that we now live in a state that says a young person at the age of 16 apprehended 3 times with a loaded firearm in 18 months. That is defined by New York State law as not extraordinary. When Craig Apple has a detail in West Hill, and his people pull over a vehicle with 2 teenagers on their way to a drive-by with 2 illegal firearms with a capacity of over 100 rounds, and those individuals get to go back home and have breakfast with their families, the system is broken, which is why when I say we are the first in the country to have an open carry policy for teenagers, that is exactly what we have. There are a lot of people here tonight with a lot of different business to come before you. This is a conversation that I believe we need to have, and that we need to engage in thoroughly, because I have to say this, it's one thing when random acts of violence occur, and you can shrug your shoulder and point to a whole host of issues and say, okay, it's not something we could have stopped. There is a young man whose family is burying him this week because of a violent act that is captured on film with audio. We witnessed the murder of a young man at the hands of another young man that had gone through the family court Raise the Age process and was a beneficiary there at a minimum of 3 times. And we will be dealing with that issue, and I don't want to say more, we will be dealing with that issue tomorrow when Friday in Albany County, the courthouse. But as more details of that specific case starts to become more public, I do want the opportunity to come back to you with more information so that you can perhaps entertain whether this is the formation of a commission to study whatever services exist in family court, which I am saying here with no offense to the jurist in family court, with no offense to the entire, all the people that work in family court. This is a system that was never designed to handle or deal with violent, super violent youth. And while others may not be in a position to state it, the Department of Probation, an exceptional Department of Probation that we have in Albany County, is also not an agency that was ever developed or designed to handle the super, hyper violent youth that we currently have. And so I can take your questions. Again, I don't want to take up a lot of the time that is set aside for others who have a lot of business before you, but I do not intend for this to be the last conversation that we have as a legislative body about this specific issue. The number one cause of death in the United States of America for young African American males between the ages of 15 and 24 are guns. Are guns. And we are at a pace per capita to create jaw-dropping numbers unless we take executive action and unless we take emergency action. Although there is only one group of people that can change this, I have made calls for our New York State leadership to return and address these issues. I will need more voices as we make that call. And that is my burden. That is my burden to convince you to be those voices. And so I will take your questions. Sir.
Yeah. The numbers that you stated, if I understand correctly, almost 90% of them are residual people who've done it before or have been through the system?
Yes, have the exact numbers for you, 11 out of 12, so we're looking at 92%
92%.
of all violent
And this
offenses.
is, remember, this is May of 23 to the present of 23.
So why isn't Albany Police concentrating on these people and, working on getting them arrested?
This is not an Albany Police issue. This is a raise the age issue. Under raise the age, there is a presumption that anyone who commits a crime, be it violent or nonviolent, go to family court. That is the presumption. We have to overcome that presumption. We can do that within the first 6 days. But there has to be 3 elements that must be in a case for us to be successful in taking that case back and having that case prosecuted by us in Adolescent Park.
So you don't
We
think
have
the
to-
lack
we
of
have to
police,
demonstrate-
Albany Police, with not having enough staff, has no effect on this?
The Albany Police have been doing an exceptional job at identifying the individuals because some of the individuals who are committing these crimes happen to have ankle bracelets on them. Ankle bracelets from the first time that they went to family court, and the judges required probation to put ankle bracelets on. The Albany Police Department are in fact making these arrests. The problem is the law, and the law that supports the in and out nature, and the emboldening nature of young people who are out there carrying illegal firearms. We have an example of 3 weeks ago of a young lady who was delivering lunch to her boyfriend and is on South Pearl Street. The young lady is carjacked. She is carjacked by a guy who lifts his sweatshirt and displays what appears to be, to her, to be a gun. She gives up the car. This young person was already arrested for possession of a firearm that was litigated in family court. And family court denied us our application to have this case prosecuted by us. Why? Because the young lady who testified couldn't be certain that what she saw and thought was a gun underneath the sweatshirt of this defendant, she couldn't be able to, with 100% certainty, say that it was a weapon. Thus, the policy now is that we make victims of crime stare at their assailant, and we require them to actually identify serial numbers on illicit guns in order for us to be able to meet our burden. That's the problem with the law. And again, we're going to have more conversations so that you will be well-equipped and well-versed on the challenges, so that way if you decide to join our voice in calling for a complete overhaul of Raise the Age, you will have that information and that knowledge.
That's my last question. In the wisdom of everyone up on the Hill, how come nothing's been changed on it? What are the assemblymen, and what's Breslin and Fahey, McDonald saying to you? Why it's not being changed?
It's certainly not going to require just the voices of three people.
No, but they're part
right?
of, they're part of.
But we need leadership right now at that level, right, to sit with us. I have here a diary, right? There's not every case that's in my diary here. It's not every case. It's just the worst of the worst. It's the cases where we see the shooting, the gunning down of a young man in front of the Board of Elections, a person who had loaded firearms on 2 prior occasions and actually shot at people. To my count, and I may be wrong, we currently have, to date, 4 deaths. There are 4 families who have had to bury their children because we failed. We failed them. And we failed them because of this law. Young people who are shooters, who possess firearms illegally out there on the street, we couldn't keep them in.
Catch and release is a bad policy.
Go ahead.
Yeah, David, I know last time that you came, you spoke about bail reform, and now you're speaking about raise the age. But I have a few questions to ask. How many of these incidents that you spoke about are the people, the suspects, or the suspects in this incident are within the ages of 16 to 21? How many of them? And then, do you feel like this is more, what you are talking about is more about the raise the age issue, or is it more about the bail reform issue? And also, last part of it is, because I don't want to come again. Last part of it is that I know the Governor Hochul has made some amendments to the, or signed some amendments to the bail reform. How has that, affected anything since you last came here?
All very good questions. What we're seeing right now happening in our community, whether it's gun violence or whether you see it's the aggressive panhandling that's affecting businesses all throughout the corridor, whether it's Lark Street, whether it's Central Avenue, or whether it's Pearl Street, is a confluence of these terrible policies. For example, Sheriff Apple, and I hate to sit here like I'm a spokesperson, but has done a fantastic job over the last several decades of transforming the space within the Albany County Correctional Facility to have programs for people that were arrested for quality of life offenses. In 2019, if a person was aggressively panhandling at the Pearl Street Diner, they would have summoned the police would have arrived, the police would have charged them, the police would have had them arraigned at the Albany City Court. Both defense and prosecutors would recognize that this is not a dangerous person, that the idea right at the outset is to begin looking for solutions for this individual. The time that they spent at the Albany Correctional Facility was designed to have evaluations, assessments, and then connect them to services. That has been one of the specific areas of tremendous pride for the criminal justice system here in Albany County. Now, with bail, you can hand out an appearance ticket. So the business owners are not getting the same kind of response that they would have gotten in 2019. So the frustration on the part of the business community in Albany County is that they have 2019 expectations in a 2023 criminal justice environment. So it's not just, for example, this is Raise the Age. This specifically addresses 16 and 17-year-olds. That's the only population we're talking about when we're talking about Raise the Age. But bail is a problem. It's a significant problem because it eliminates a judge's discretion. Now, you mentioned the proposal that the amendments with Governor Hochul. To her credit, she's literally the only leader right now that we have in New York State that continues to fight to make these amendments. But these amendments, I can only liken to this. Judges must have full restoration of their discretion. There are still ways to monitor judges and their decisions. If a judge is specifically sending all people that look like me, and setting high bail, there's a way to identify that and a way to correct that, right? Maybe it's not having that same judge. The problem, sir, is that the amendments that have been made, it's kind of like walking a judge into a jail cell and closing the jail doors but taking off the handcuffs. He still can't walk around, freely in the building. So that's the only example that I can give you that would illustrate that the changes that are made are merely cosmetic, and on the street, it's not really having the effect that we in public safety would like for those.
So how many of your incidents fall within the ages of those 16 and 17?
Every single number that we've talked about here and the numbers that we will provide you, because again, this is a window of the last 3 months. And the reason why this was important is because, as you know, during the hotter periods of our summers where we really see the uptick in violence, where we see the uptick in shootings. So that's the basis for us collecting this bit of data for you. But we do have data stemming all the way back from 2018, all the way to April of 2023.
So last question. So your data, this number of incidents that you gave, there are more incidents that are, if you were to take, let's say, all issues involving gun violence within May and July of 2023, would there be more incidents than what you have?
Let me break that down for you. Since October of 2018 to the present, we have a total of 440 cases, all 16 and 17. 222 are violent crimes. Of the 222, all of those violent crimes were committed by 173 violent offenders. Of all of those violent crimes, 116, so about half of the violent crimes, are committed with illegal guns. Of the 116 crimes involving illegal guns, 36 of those events we had that gun being discharged. So it's about a third of all violent crimes with guns involve a discharge. Of the nonviolent crimes, and quite frankly, we have so much to do with violent crimes that we do not focus on young people who are committing nonviolent offenses. Family court can have those. But of the nonviolent offenses, there were 166 that took place in the last 4 years. So the total is 339 people in the universe committing 440 crimes. Obviously, those numbers don't match, so you realize that we have individuals that are committing multiple crimes, okay? So those are the numbers that we have for the entire universe. We are breaking these down further. We have those breakdowns. We will provide them to you.
Thank you.
Wanda, did you have your hand?
Yes. The 16 and the 17-year-olds, okay? Now, and they're in family court. This is what I want to get back to. So are you indicating that, is it the county attorney that does the cases in family court? That's one question, okay? And are you saying that the laws that apply to a 16 and a 17-year-old are not utilized in family court as they would be in county court and under the DA jurisdiction other than the county attorney?
The answer to that question is, the second question is absolutely yes. The penalties associated in the process in family court is entirely different. You take the event that just happened over the weekend, okay? The way that Raise the Age works is, this is obviously a person that qualifies because this individual happens to be 17 years old. So once that takes place and there is an arrest, the Albany Police Department are bringing that individual to the Albany City Court for arraignment. But because that individual is 17 years old, that individual has to be brought before a family court judge immediately after they are arraigned in Albany City Court, okay? At that arraignment, we are making an argument. It's the district attorney's office that makes that general appearance in family court to make the argument that this case is particularly heinous. It involves a firearm, or it involves some heinous act. We have to make that argument within the first 6 days. If the judge finds that that specific case contains one of those elements, and the 3 elements is the defendant displayed a gun, there was a significant injury, or it's a specific sexual act. If one of those 3 elements are involved, we win. We get to keep the case and then begin prosecuting that case in a specialized court in county court called the adolescent part. Judges are specifically trained in dealing with violent young people in adolescent part, and the sanctions are different than they would be for an adult. If we don't have those elements in family court, if we don't have one of those 3, that case is kept in family court, then we never hear about that case again. Unfortunately, we do, because that individual is then back out on the street committing new violent acts.
You should probably point out, though, how hard it is to prove those 3 elements, like the display versus possess issue.
Or if there's co-defendants.
Yeah.
So I'll give you 2 perfect examples. A gentleman, he is looking to back out of his garage with his truck, and it just so happens to be the same time that kids are being let out of school. Young people who are in his way, he's beeping the horn. He gets out of the car to ask them to move. They proceed to beat this man. You have fractures along his orbital bones. You have significant injuries. The burden of proof on the people to prove our case at that level, at the infancy stage, we have to establish which young person and which blow delivered the significant injury. I don't know if you've ever seen a bar fight or if you've ever seen a group of young people attacking, but it is impossible to prove that. They even require that same standard in a video that I think we shared with you, where we saw two people in a car, total of 3 guns, driver and 2 people from the passenger seat, shooting out at an individual who was struck. We don't know which bullet, we don't know which gun that bullet came from, but that's the standard in family court. And thus far, I can share with you, I can share with all of you, that we win those cases at the remarkable rate of 7%.
DA Soares, what is it that you are hoping that the legislators can do action-wise?
I will be back with more information, more specifics on our cases. I will provide you anything that you ask for, anything that you think you need. But I desperately need the Albany County Legislature and leadership here in Albany County to stand with their police, be it the Albany County Sheriff, be it with their local law enforcement agencies. And I would love to have the support of this body in denouncing raise the age, in wanting to see change, even if you like certain elements, whatever elements that you think need change. And I also would invite you to have other people who may share a different view. But it's time for leadership in Albany County to get with us in our desire to continue to make this county a safe place to be. And I'm telling you, as a person who is the chief law enforcement official in this county, we have never been as vulnerable as we are right now.
Dave, you mentioned earlier about you went to the state. Who'd you go to the state and what did they tell you?
As president of the District Attorneys Association, as well as a member of the Albany County District Attorneys Association, there is absolutely zero desire to change from the current posture of what I believe to be a very pro-criminal ideology that exists right now in our state legislature. Many of you, a lot of my colleagues in the District Attorneys Association, when they were discussing raise the age, what they told us was, we don't want to see young people who are young in adult prisons with older defendants, older criminals. We agreed with that. They also said, we think that young kids who commit mistakes when they're young and their brains are undeveloped should not have to live their entire lives under the weight of the one mistake that they make in their lives. We agreed with that. They also said that there are plenty of other alternatives and things that we could be offering young people, such as cognitive behavioral health courses and things like that. We also agreed with that. What we agreed with and what we ended up getting in terms of policy are two different things. And so if you want to go back to the original premise of what this is about, let's explore that. Let's talk about that. Let's do it. We're in New York. We can do great things in New York. But if what you want to do is create a revolving door around the criminal justice system with violent, hyper-violent youth, that's just terrible policy. And I'd like your voice in helping to express that.
But Chair, Dave, how about our local state officials that represent our area around here? Have you spoken to them, and what was their response?
I have spoken to them, and I hesitate to share those conversations that at the point in time that I'm having with them are, those are private conversations, but I would welcome the opportunity to be invited here, along with members of the Assembly and members of the state.
Other than your private conversations, I don't blame you for that. What about on the record type of conversations with this leadership up there?
Well, on the record conversations, I don't think they wanted to hear about this data this year, which is why they had first invited our presentation and then revoked that invitation. But numbers like the scale that I step on every morning, they just don't lie.
So it's safe to say you're not getting support from the Hill?
No.
In the literal sense, what happened earlier this year is we were set to have a conversation like this at a hearing. They said, who's going to speak on behalf of district attorneys? They heard David Soares, and they said, get that guy out of here, essentially. So, and I'm not exaggerating, he was disinvited from a setting just like this with state lawmakers, because I suspect that they know that they're wrong, and hearing that you're wrong when you're in such support of a pie-in-the-sky abstract concept like this is hurtful, but accountability is important if you want to, stop young black kids from dying.
This is not about embarrassing anybody, sir, and I just want to be very clear about that.
Did you speak to the leadership of the Assembly, the leadership of the Senate, the heads of the bodies?
Raise the Age is the pride and joy of the leadership of the Assembly. And therefore, attacking the policy is like attacking, it is.
That's how you get disinvited from sitting.
I just want to know what's going on with them people up
They
there.
simply don't want to hear it, and they won't engage leadership,
So they turn them
frankly.
off, I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, Patty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. DA Soares, I agree 100% with you, particularly on the judge's discretion and the consequences, and that raising of age has been a complete failure. You talked about getting a task force or something together. And while that sounds good, we all know what needs to be done. This just needs to be changed. We could spend the next year talking about the same things that we've been talking about since they made these foolish laws. And now hearing this, what you're saying, that this is their baby, and you can't even enter the room. I'm behind you. I'll go to any press conference, stand there, rah, whatever you ask us to do or you think we can do, but I'm at a loss as to really what we can do. And that doesn't mean I'm giving up. I just think we have to have, it's not just raise the age. One of the things that drives me crazy is they didn't put any services into that. They didn't put any money for services into it. Not just, they probably would have been lousy anyway, but or not the crack ones, I should say. But there's nothing to this except just raise the age and the bail reform, then it makes them feel good, like they did something. And they're hurting kids. They're hurting families. They're totally destroying families, and particularly the black community.
See, the reason why your voice is so important, though, is because that's how we ended up losing the sane people lost the culture war to begin with. They just kind of let things slide.
Right.
Politics is always downstream. So if you change the culture and conversation behind it, at some point the legislation will follow. It's just that there is a political cost, frankly, for a lot of people to saying things that are obviously true.
So what do you suggest?
We're jamming open the Overton window by engaging with you all and hopefully getting you all to join us. So it's something you are allowed to publicly say, essentially.
Paul, you have
I've
a
been
question?
saying it for years.
I know. We're
I'm
just,
afraid to say it publicly.
Yeah, I really do have a question, because and I'm not trying to talk about, I mean, we have a whole bunch of assembly people, and we have a couple of senators in this region, and some people may be supportive of changes, and others may not be. But it strikes me that the most important community for folks to listen to is the affected communities in Albany, and in Troy, and in Schenectady. And what I'm trying to figure out is, what is driving the opposite? Is there a groundswell in the communities that are most heavily impacted about maintaining Raise the Age? Or do they realize that that is creating the problem for the community? So are members of the legislature more concerned that they will offend their leadership, for which, as you say, Raise the Age is their baby? Or are they worried about upsetting local interest groups that may believe that Raise the Age has to be maintained as is?
It would be hard for me to speculate as to what, and I hate to speak for people.
That's why I said a whole bunch of people.
Well, you know, it's a, the question begs,
That's
What-
my question for you.
Excuse me,
I'm sorry,
one at a time.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Dave. No, it's okay. Dave, go ahead. Paul was asking.
No,
You all done? Frank, you have a question?
No, go ahead.
Lonnie, you have another question? Oh, here.
I just want to say thank you for coming tonight, David. And I, for one, was living in Albany my whole life. Don't need no more information. I stand with you, I stand with law enforcement, and I stand with the sheriff and the police departments in this county. And anything I can do to help you in our law enforcement community, you let me know. And let this committee know, because I'm sure y'all feel the same way.
Absolutely.
thank you.
Wanda?
Yes. I can't let your comments stand without making, because it wasn't really directed at him.
No,
It was directed, you directed it towards the leadership and the representatives, and so I'm going to respond to that. But, I had a comment or a question to make before Paul spoke. And it's in regards to the real reason why Raise the Age became so popular
Right.
in the first place. That cannot be overlooked at all, because that passed not because of representation up here, but from downstate.
Right.
And so that cannot be overlooked. And it's not that the representatives here did not feel some kind of way about it, because we know and have asked the same questions. Why is this happening this way? Also talk to downstate representatives, okay, to see, don't you see that some changes should be made in this? But we do not have the numbers to change that. And so to paint this as we're weak or afraid of what somebody thinks or feels, that is totally wrong. It is not that at all. But we cannot discuss this without discussing why it was done to begin with. And so I'm going to submit to you. I've listened to you tell, the stories, and they're horrific. They are horrific. And I agree with you on many instances. But what got us here was a story a woman told me of how her son wound up in Rikers Island. And to hear that woman speak about how she felt about how her son got into trouble, and how she told him all of this time, I told you never to do this and never to do that. And she decided that when he got in trouble, that she would give him up. to you, not here you, but there. A son wound up in Rikers Island. And the story that she told me would bring tears to your eyes as to what happened to him. The one time he did something, the way he went in, and she decided that she was going to teach him a lesson, not knowing the lesson that she was teaching him and what it was going to do to him, so that when he came out, he went off a roof of his own doing because of what happened to him in Rikers Island. And let me just say this. I'm not condemning everything that you're saying, by no means at all. I want you to understand that. But it's how we got here and why that law is in place. It is because a lot of it has to do with what went on downstate. And so we are not afraid to speak up.
I wasn't.
But it came out. It came out like that.
Oh, geez.
But you can't put it, I just don't want you to put it to him. He can't respond to that. But I do hear what you're saying. We all do. I was down on South Pearl Street when that boy got killed down there. And know the backstory and all of that too. But to come here and say you want us to do this and that, it's gotta be a little bit more to it when we get out in the street and we start telling people, well, let's start here. And why our representatives up here and up the street are having a hard time, and why they run you away. Because of the other side of the story coming out. But the people downstate, they have why they put it in place to begin with, because of how those kids were treated.
You mentioned, you mentioned a real good point that if I can just, so we happen to live in a community where I admire our sheriff, I admire what he's done with our correction facility. Rikers is the bane of the existence of this entire state. You could even make the argument that it is the bane of the entire country. What I don't think would ever happen in society, anywhere, is I think that if we had a specific hospital that continued to demonstrate malpractice on a daily basis, I don't think that we would be changing the practice of medicine for all the other hospitals because of what happened in one hospital. And that's what we continue to experience because of Rikers Island and as you say, numbers that are overwhelming. I just ask you, and I ask everyone here, keep an open mind, keep your eyes peeled. There are events that are going to be coming, specifically starting tomorrow. You are going to have things that are shared with you as members of the public that'll give you a firsthand experience as to what we are seeing. We're prohibited from sharing a lot of things. I can't give you names. I can give you addresses. I can give you facts. But please, if you're committed to public safety, keep an open mind and your eyes peeled for what is going to happen here in the next few days.
Are you getting into a fight with the state?
What's that?
Are you getting into a fight with the state?
No fight. It's the prosecution of events that are taking place here. This young man keeps our statistics for all violence involving youth, and he's been up a lot. In the matter of the last week, we've had 6 new cases, one of them being a homicide, but all of those cases involving illegal firearms.
Dave, do you think if the legislature, our legislature, requested a meeting with the leadership of the Assembly and the leadership of the Senate to address us on the issue along with you, what's going on, be more effective than you chasing everybody around? Do you think they would meet with us or request it?
I certainly think that they have tremendous respect for this body.
Enough to come and talk to us?
I can't.
You're dealing with what I do, I don't deal with this, I don't know.
I think they have.
You think they would come?
I think, generally speaking, legislative bodies have reverence for other legislators. It's a natural
I think
thing.
they'd have a hard time pushing, like Wanda said, where the votes are downstate.
Right.
That's what's blocking this whole thing.
Well, maybe we should talk to them and try and get them here themselves and explain everything to us. They are the leadership. There's nobody gonna ever convince me they don't control the memberships. Nobody, so don't bother. That don't never fly.
It's a whole different world up there, Bill.
They don't hold it.
And this law proves it.
We got control of the government, Gary, we got a Democratic governor, Democratic Senate, and Democratic Assembly. Something should be able to be done.
I think, yes, they would.
You think so?
Yes.
So I think we should try something along those lines.
Does the sheriff have anything to say about this?
I stand with our DA. He's exactly right. We see it every day. We've been out, we've been voicing our opinions, but it's falling on deaf ears. And unfortunately, we're losing lives as a result of it. It's not, listen, sometimes you just have to admit you were wrong and swallow it and move on. And this is something that can be fixed. I agree with some components of Raise the Age. There were young black and brown individuals in my jail that were just lost. But I could help them. When Raise the Age came in, we lost all that. When Raise the Age came in and bail reform came in, we lost the ability to help a lot of people live healthy and productive lives that we all live every day. We lost that. We lost the ability to help these folks with addiction and homelessness and PTSD and domestic violence and alcoholism. The list goes on and on. We lost all that. Now we have the most violent of the violent. We can't do anything to help them, and you just sit in that jail cell. We lost the ability to help a lot of people from our community.
I'm quite sure, Dave, you would have our support. I'm speaking for myself. I can't speak for anybody else. But you would have my support 100%.
I sincerely thank this body for giving us the opportunity in the audience. I sincerely apologize to our colleagues who have been waiting, who are also on the agenda for, and I would welcome the opportunity again if we were to present, to be able to put us last so that we're not depriving people of their quality time with their families.
Thank you, Dave.
Just-
If I can, just a quick question. Sure. What I would need, I think would be helpful, is a memo, a one-page memo, maybe to all the members, saying this is what needs to be done, the most critical changes that are needed. Because we heard a lot of things tonight.
We have a version of that. We
Yeah, we could
sent
use
it
that,
out.
and then we could write our own letters, and I will.
Is everyone's county
God bless you,
email
Dave, for bringing
good
this
to
forward.
send that to?
Yeah.
Not yours?
Well, they have our office.
You can also send it to
Okay.
council's office.
All right.
Either the chair or majority office, and we'll ensure that
So I
they-
have just the numbers from October to now to send to you all. I have that with a breakdown of how it works currently and what needs to be fixed, and redacted examples of essentially people being arrested with loaded guns, released, and just over and over again. So, yeah, yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
can I just make a comment? Because I know what we're talking about, you know, the worst of the worst here in terms of gun violence and all that. But I live in the Village Colony, so I live right between it, all of the cities, okay, and the corridor, as we call it, Central Avenue. This isn't just a city issue. The kids in my community, all you have to do is walk through the halls of the school, and it might only be, you know, it might only be harassments, assaults, or, you know, these horrible fights that these kids are getting in, like you were describing. It's happening elsewhere too. This is not just in your neighborhood. But maybe they're not carrying, well, some of them are carrying guns in Colony, but they will be, because there's no consequences. When the kids in Colony or Gilda Lynn, it's all the same system. They're 17 years old, they're still going to family court, no matter what they do. It doesn't really matter. So I think people have to, sometimes people live in their own communities, well, that's a city problem, right? That's an urban problem, or that's a, it's our entire county's problem, because it spills out, and it's a culture, and it's a mind thought, and I don't want to go too much, but I'm sure you see that in, it's horrible that we're talking about illegal guns with kids. We should be talking about teaching them not to shoplift, right?
Well, thank you, Dave, thank you for coming.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Let us